guys, my name is Angie Hawkins, and this is my beautiful bestie, Rayah. I almost said Gillingham.
Hello.
It's not Gillingham, it's
It is
Gilliland. She's been married forever, but in my brain, she's still
Guys,
Gillingham.
12 years.
12 years, 20 years, 15, 20, 30. I'm just kidding. We've been friends since 5th grade. A long, long time. So we do have a 20-year friendship going on. So long time, all the boy drama, everything in between. Like the same guys, fought over it, had to get over it. Now she's married.
Yes.
Married to a guy that we both met at the party, and she got him. We both met him. All the girls were trying to talk to him, and here comes Rayah, and she steals him. I was like, of course she did.
That was so good.
No, I'm just kidding. He is totally everything she believed God for, which is really cool. Yeah. She liked her white guys, mixed guys, black guys, every nationality, and then there's Darren. Shout out to Darren.
All together.
He is mixed. Ladies.
Will we put those green eyes in there? He's mixed with green eyes. I'll just tag that in there.
He's got hazel eyes?
Yeah, the hazel. It depends on what he's wearing. They change colors.
Hazel eyes and tan skin. And I'm like, what the heck, Rain? He's an athlete. He's in basketball. I'm like, of course you did. Of course you got that guy. Anyway, particular video, we're talking about finding your purpose. And we are actually in the middle of an element of purpose that it was fulfilled. This studio, which is really, really cool. She does ministry through music, an amazing worship artist. Her and Darren both. But this studio is really cool. This is a part of their dream and recording, and that's where we're filming today. Yeah. So I'm excited. This is a fulfillment of what God's doing, and then doing this YouTube channel. She's got one, and then me doing one has been really cool. Now we're joining together and doing one. So we just had on our hearts to talk about purpose, because I think so many people live their lives just meaningless. It feels like you're just going to work day in and day out, and you're trying to just earn a paycheck, take care of your bills, and the last thing you think about is what you're passionate about. What are your desires in your heart? Where do you want to go in life? Or do you just take what life deals with you? You know, gosh, it really feels like a survival mode mentality. And I think since COVID hit, a lot of us we went into that mindset of survival. And then I feel like some people haven't come out of it. Yeah. And so what really stirred in both of our hearts was to talk about purpose, and what is purpose, and does God have a purpose on our lives, or are we just existing? So the first point, we're going to talk about a few steps, a few keys to finding your purpose, because you have to know what your purpose is. Otherwise, life really is meaningless. If you don't have a passion and a drive and a purpose and a call for something bigger than yourself, what are we doing? So the first step really is to talk about some practical things like natural giftings. And I love that. That's something we don't think about, right?
Yeah, totally don't think about it enough. I think that a lot of times we think that this just comes easy for me, but we don't know that this is a gifting that's actually instilled in me. You know, like, so if you've been able to sing, or if you naturally are able to just randomly draw or speak well in front of people, we just take those things for granted and just, well, I've always been able to do that. But that's not necessarily true. I honestly believe God never does anything for no reason. I know that he doesn't do anything for no reason. So if he puts it on the inside of you, he's going to use it, you know, for later. I believe that.
Well, and I think people look for big qualities or really amazing talents to see if they're gifted or talented. And if they don't see something really significant in their lives, they assume they don't have a gifting or a talent. And that's not true. I like to take a step back and look at is, what are things that come easy for you that doesn't come easy for someone else? Prime example. This beautiful lady can sing. I cannot.
So silly.
Not at all.
Oh my gosh.
She can sing since we were in elementary school. She would just be singing all these songs, Christina Aguilera, different artists, and be belting that out, getting her sass on, just singing. And I'm over here like croaking, trying to keep it tuned.
Oh my gosh.
I'm like, you know what? We'll just let you sing. I'll just lip sing with you.
Gosh.
And just, it doesn't come natural for me. That's not my gifting. It's not my talent. I know that and recognize it. And she could over here sing effortlessly. And then she's done voice lessons to enhance it. Yeah. But she already had a gifting there. And for me, I've loved to just speak and talk, and that's something God kind of put in my heart to do, to encourage people or talk to them. And that's been a gifting that came natural, which is kind of interesting, because it would just happen when I was doing it in youth or wherever, and then it just kept growing the more I would cultivate it.
That's really good.
So I noticed that there's natural things that come easy for you that doesn't come easy for someone else. And we want you to kind of pay attention to realize there is a gifting and talent that you have. And then I just kind of wanted to share this scripture with you. This one is really good. This one was in Matthew. It's 25:14 through 30. And it talks about the different talents that the master gave to them.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that he gave them each a talent according to their ability.
Yeah.
And he didn't give one more than what he thought they could handle. And I look at, that's how God does things. He looks at your ability, he looks at your talent,
Mm-hmm.
and he increases talents and abilities, and he'll put desires and talents in each one of us according to where that purpose and that passion is that he's going to take us.
Yeah.
And he won't put something on your life that there's no way you could fulfill.
Yeah.
I mean, it does take him
Right.
to fulfill it, but it's not something that just doesn't fit.
Yeah.
Kind of like with you naturally could sing. Well, that was a God-given talent and ability that he gave you.
And then I'll kind of couple that with, this is like for probably a whole nother time, but he actually brought me a spouse that matched my gifting. And that makes a huge difference. So I believe that if I have this gifting, but then my spouse has no desire to be a part of that, or it's going a different direction, then I think that would steer my gifting and my calling, or even cause it to kind of squelch a little bit. And so I really believe for later, you know, if you're in that process where you're believing the Lord to bring a spouse or what have you, that's a really important thing. I remember noticing that really early on what Darren was. So we have a huge desire for youth and kids, and for me specifically teenage girls, to just see them grow and to flourish and just build into their lives. But he had that as well, and it's a passion of his, a desire of his, you know, to see young boys, you know, flourish in their giftings. And then as a plus, he could sing. Well, then put that thing together and you're moving along together. I do kind of want to talk about just a little bit just in children as well. So I have a 5-year-old, and I watch, his name's Aiden, and he is just,
he is something.
He is something. Yeah. It's just so interesting. He knows you by your car. And so he calls.
It is true.
Yeah. He knows Angie by Auntie Angie. And if she gets any car or there's a change or whatever, he'll know, well, are you still driving that Lexus? Are you driving that Honda? You know, but he has just like, it's so interesting. He knows the badges. He knows like the whatever thing on the back. I'm like not paying attention. And then randomly this year, he just keeps on talking about how he wants to be a police officer, and anything that has to do with detail, even engineering or whatever. It's just, he's so focused in that. And as a mom, I feel like my job is to watch those little things. You know, some things are phases, and that's totally fine. But I try to like encourage that a lot. You know, I don't say, okay, hey, let's not pay attention to cars as much as say, hey, let's get you all the cars in the world, because you could be designing cars, open up dealerships, or even become a police officer like he's talking about. Yeah. He's focused on everything that has to do with transportation, watching all police officer videos, and just anything along those lines. Again, some people think that, okay, this could just be a fad or something that they're going through. But I think that it really has something to do with this calling. So remember, watch your kids and just encourage that growth. And then whatever it is that they seem to be moving towards, big personality kids, don't squelch that in them. You know, they could be leaders and speakers, and encourage those giftings in them. So
I love that you brought that up, because the past videos you've watched my channel, we've talked about dating and talked about not settling, and I love that she never did. Everything in Darren is what she wrote down on the list, which is really cool.
96 things.
Dang, Darren. I applaud you for that. It was a lengthy list, but I knew that she felt like God was stirring her heart to write that list of what she was believing for. And Darren is those things, but it aligns with her purpose. I mean, God brought someone tailor-made for where she's called to go, where she's going in life. And that's so important. And we're going to talk about in the next video on hindrances to your purpose. Because if you marry the wrong person, someone who isn't called alongside you, they are a huge hindrance to your life, and they can almost stop the call. Wow. And so that we're going to get into all that in the next video. That's a little teaser for later. But I just believe that it's so important. God has so many purposes for our lives that there's, as much as he wants that, there's the enemy that wants to stop you as well. And I think we forget that sometimes. But I want to just kind of go into the next step, and that is really getting to know God. Is it our purpose? Yes, absolutely. Who's the one that gave it to us? Well, God did. Yeah. He created this world into existence by speaking it. He also created us into existence and put a purpose and a plan. I mean, he gave Adam dominion and authority to rule over the earth. Well, he created mankind after him to rule in their calling, whatever it is that he assigned to them.
Yeah.
And God does put those desires in our hearts, you know, like
Yeah.
it's little things that stir up that don't go away. And that's things that I've kind of noticed when I would spend time with God and get to know him. That's actually what drew me to God more. He cared about me. He cares about you. And he cares about the desires in your heart. And a lot of times we think that they're our own desires, not realizing he's the one that actually put them there.
Yeah.
And I knew that you had that. You had some desires to just encourage women and youth since I've known you.
Yeah.
And we've been in youth and encouraged girls together since we were middle school and high school, and still do into our 30s. And that's something that was a God-given dream and a God-given desire and passion. And she still does that to this day, whoever she meets, in addition to worship. So I love that when God gives a call or a talent or ability, it's not just one thing. A lot of times it's multiple.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a diamond that's multifaceted. You turn, you see one side. You turn it again, you see another. And it doesn't mean they're two separate callings. It just means there's maybe different seasons that you'll do different things.
Yeah.
And so I noticed that with you. You go into different seasons, and there's different desires that take dominance over another.
That is a really good point.
You want to kind of
That's so good. And, you know, like, so every season of life, the Lord is, you know, kind of chipping away and showing you different things, because he's not going to show you the whole thing at once.
That's right.
You know, because if he shows you those things, first of all, it might freak you out. Like, oh my gosh, Lord, I can't ever do this.
That's too big. I'm leaving.
So, and then, or you may try to go after things way too early, you know, like, so in this studio, we actually tried to build this thing so many times, and it just never would happen. Like we tried it inside of our room, and then we tried to do this, try to do that. Then we have twins. We have a year and a half twins. And it's like, oh, God's like, yeah, now's that time to build that studio. And I'm like, you're kidding, right? Like, I can't even have time to brush my teeth half the time, let alone, you know, put together a studio. And then in the very moment, he brings in all these people to just start taking care of it, building things. And Darren barely raised a hammer before in his life. And it was like, and I'm like, okay, am I going to build this studio? Oh my gosh. You know, and he brought these people that were already, somebody came in and they had built many studios like this and said, hey, can I help? And they showed up every weekend to help build this thing. And it was like, okay, that perfect timing is everything. But I mean, you may think that you actually may be shelving a dream of yours that you had, you know, for the Lord's telling you to, hey, right now you need to focus on work, or you need to focus on kids. That's totally fine, because he'll bring it back up to you again. Yeah. You know, in the right season.
Well, even if you feel like you're shelving it, you're not usually shelving anything God puts in your heart. Sometimes you may spend less time doing it. Yeah. But it doesn't mean it stops altogether. It's kind of like there's a season where I was focusing more on just working a lot at that time. And I was doing a little bit of some things concerning, you know, speaking or encouraging some women or doing some modeling or whatever. And the time I was doing that was not as much as I would like, but it was still going on. Yeah. And then there's times where it increased, where I was doing a lot of it and I was doing less speaking. Yeah. And I've watched where it's kind of interchanged, where I do maybe some more modeling and less speaking, and then more speaking and less modeling. And it would just kind of go back and forth in different seasons. And there's times where that kind of pushed to the side and it was solely some speaking. And same thing with you. You helped encourage women. And then she stepped back and went into worship and ministry in that way. And then she's done speaking. So she's kind of gone back and forth, where one calling would take a little more dominance in one season, then the next gifting would take its kind of become more dominant and take more focus. But both of them were still there and very much a part of what's on in life. Yeah, absolutely. So we just kind of want to keep going. So we've talked about just natural giftings on the inside of us, really drawing close to God. Step 2, paying attention to desires in your heart, where you have a peace to pursue something, or if you have a hesitancy, something doesn't click, it doesn't feel right. And that's kind of where I've noticed to recognize something God was stirring in my heart, where I had a peace and just a strong desire to pursue something. For me, that was doing a lot of modeling, and I knew God was in it, because I had a peace every time I pursued it. And then there was certain things that, like, there were certain jobs that I just had no peace at all to take, and I knew God wasn't in it. And I paid attention to those things.
Yeah, that's really good.
It's kind of like, just because there's a lot of things that involve the entertainment industry, modeling or acting or commercial work. And I noticed there were certain jobs I had peace about and some that I didn't. And it didn't mean that God wasn't in it as a whole. It just meant that he was guiding me to the ones he wanted me to take. It's kind of like, as you're following a guide, maybe you're going on a tour. Well, you don't go to every hot spot, right? Yeah. You go to select ones that they want you to see, the highlights that they want to show you. God's the same way. He leads you through the Holy Spirit, showing you, take this position or take this opportunity, don't take that one. Yeah. And you're paying attention to, it's like a red light, green light situation. And I know you've noticed that you'd have peace to pursue and sing certain worship songs, and there's some stuff you're like, nope, that doesn't seem right when you're recording. And I noticed that, like this song is I have a piece. This seems right. This is flowing, and then you get to another lyric, you're like, let's cut that out.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's not a part of this.
Right, absolutely. You know, and it's important that, you know, if you do pursue that wrong thing in that moment where you miss it, don't think, oh, well, this must have not been the calling of God in my life.
That's
like,
good.
oh, I missed this song, or I got into this modeling area and I totally missed it. That doesn't, we all miss it. We're human. That doesn't make you a bad person. It just makes you human. And, but it's important to get back into that place where you're okay. You can shift out and then feel uneasy, but so much is easy to shift back into that place again, to be like, okay, Lord, that wasn't it. Let me see what is it in that moment. So
I want to kind of get into this next point here, where we're just kind of talking about taking time to really develop the gift. So we know that we need to, number one, God does have a plan. Number two, that we're taking time to get to know him on what that plan may be. The three is really recognizing the desires in your heart, which we kind of talked about, just things that kept coming up that seem right, desires that just don't go away. And then the last one is to cultivate that, because you have to take time. Anything you need to be good at, it takes time to sowing into it. It doesn't just manifest. I mean, even if there is a talent or a gifting in an area like singing, or if it's organizing, or it's speaking, or traveling, or, you know, maybe you're good at organization, you're good at administration. You do have to take time to really sow into that gift, because it doesn't become good overnight. Kind of like you see NFL players or basketball players, they don't become amazing and great practicing one time and showed up.
So good. That's funny that you say that, because I was just talking to my husband. He is a huge basketball star, and right now we're go Golden State. Anyways, so I'll put that in there.
Plug.
Yeah. But he's just like, he's been watching that like every single time. You know, we're in the finals right now, but there are people that actually are probably better than the NBA players on the court right now. And we've never seen them before, and we may never see them, because perhaps they didn't jump into the right place to cultivate that gift, or perhaps they didn't want to take the time to get better. Like, oh, you know, I'm just playing this 4-on-4 or this 2-on-2, and this is enough for like this place that I'm in. And God, he doesn't give everybody this natural ability to just play basketball really, really well. You know, like, just,
I don't have it.
You know, I don't have it either. Oh my gosh, you know. And so it's like, you know, if this guy gets on the court and he's just like Michael Jordan to everybody, but then he's just like, he settles and this is just enough. You know, he doesn't take the time to build that and make it better. Even singers think a lot of, and I've gotten in trouble doing this for many years. I would think, oh, this is good. I picked this artist and I'm like, I want to sound like this girl. And then just kind of coast there. And then the Lord, you know, brought me to an amazing singing teacher, and she helped build me and strengthen me for 10 years. Yes, could I sing already? But I had no idea the potential that he had for me, because with not having the right amount of skill, I can only reach a certain audience. And so with building that, now I can, first of all, have the confidence to do things well, but then I can reach a much broader space, because there's excellence involved in my talent now. As opposed to just raw talent. You know, I can kind of do it some days, and some days I'm not as good as I was, you know. That makes a big difference.
Well, I love that last statement she said. She wasn't as good as she was before. Maybe she kind of noticed the difference. Well, you don't compete against others. You're competing against yourself and improving where you were the last time you did that particular time. Like, maybe one day you did really well, the next day wasn't so well, but you're pushing yourself against where you used to be, and you want to continue to let yourself be the person you compete against, not someone else. Because you may never be, you're not going to be them anyway. And whatever giftings and talents they have, you may not. So your race should be against yourself and proving where you've been, and keeping that at the forefront. So that's just kind of some things that we wanted to share on this. And I just hope that it was encouraging, that you will just like and subscribe to this channel. Rayah has been so fun to film this with. And this has just been an amazing journey for us to do together, finding your purpose. And that's by getting, number one, recognizing your natural talents and abilities. It's drawing closer to God, and it's paying attention to the desires in your heart. And the last key is to really recognize, to develop that gift and spend the time sowing into it. And that's how, as you go about those 4 keys and steps, you start to notice the dream and desires in your heart to grow. And they really start to flourish. And you can't give up on them. You have to keep pushing your hand to the plow. You got to keep going after those dreams, because everyone's going to fight you against it. It happens. Whether it's your music or if it's in speaking, there's always somebody better than you. tune out the negativity and really focus and hone in on pursuing your dreams, because you don't want to wake up one day living in regret, wishing you did something that you could have done to fulfill what's in your heart. So thank you for tuning in and watching with us, and stay tuned for part 2. Thanks for watching.